Before we begin, take a moment to breathe. If you find value in stories that blend human emotion with timeless wisdom, consider subscribing to the channel. Your presence here supports mindful content in a noisy world. Emily stared out the 12th floor window of the corporate tower, her coffee gone cold in her hand. The city stretched beneath her like a board game where each building housed its own ambitions, secrets, and seductions. Behind her, the murmur of keyboards and hushed conversations filled the air like a constant, low-frequency hum, one she had learned to tune out over the years. She and David were the golden couple of the firm vice presidents in neighboring departments. Married for 9 years, often presented at company galas as the picture of success. On the outside, their lives looked seamless. Designer clothes, matching smiles, polite conversations over wine at networking events. Inside, however, was a different reality. At home, silence lingered like fog. David had grown distant. His affection had been replaced with polite efficiency. They still shared a bed, but intimacy had long become a memory filed away behind closed drawers and unopened messages. The rot hadn't started suddenly. It was a slow burn, a missed anniversary dinner, a phone always turned screen down, the constant tension of competition, who closed a bigger deal, who got mentioned at the board meeting, who had more subordinates. Somewhere along the climb, they stopped being lovers and became rivals who shared a mortgage. She often wondered if David was unfaithful. The thought wasn't born from jealousy, but from the logic of absence. He'd begun staying late, and his explanations felt practiced. But she said nothing. In the office, silence was currency. Emotional transparency was a liability. So she smiled in meetings. She played the game. She reviewed quarterly reports with precision and wore confidence like armor. But beneath it all, a quiet ache stirred. And then came Jason. 28, sharp-jawed, always 2 steps ahead in conversation. He was ambitious but not aggressive. He complimented her work with an ease that felt disarming. He brought her espresso without asking. And unlike David, he looked at her, not through her. It started innocently. A brainstorming session after hours. Laughter over shared memories of burnt coffee and chaotic clients. She noticed his eyes lingered a bit too long. She didn't stop him, and deep within her a forgotten hunger twitched awake. The first kiss was an accident, at least that's what Emily told herself. It happened one Friday night. The office was nearly empty, the sky outside dimming to a bruised purple. They were huddled over a campaign brief in the glass-walled conference room, laughter easing the tension of a long week. When Jason leaned in to point something on her tablet, their shoulders brushed. She turned to say something, what, she couldn't remember, and their faces were inches apart. The air thickened, and then, without thought or caution, they kissed. It was slow, hesitant, a question asked in silence. Afterward, she pulled back, cheeks flushed, eyes wide. He apologized softly. She said nothing, only nodded. The next Monday, he brought coffee again. And this time, their fingers brushed intentionally. Their meetings became more frequent. Sometimes they talked strategy. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. The glass walls turned into silent witnesses. What started as flirtation became routine, familiar, dangerous. Emily told herself it was harmless. David and she hadn't touched each other in months. She deserved to feel wanted, didn't she? Jason never demanded anything. He made her feel seen, younger, important. But deep down, she knew she had crossed a threshold. It wasn't just her marriage at risk, it was her sense of self. The woman who once preached loyalty, professionalism, dignity, she now lived a double life in the very place where she had built her name. David noticed. He didn't speak of it, but he became sharper in meetings, more guarded in their conversations. He watched her with narrowed eyes. He made subtle moves, removing her from one project, reassigning Jason to another team for optics. And Emily, sensing the ground shift, clung tighter to what was slipping. What she didn't know was that David had started documenting everything. Desire, when left unchecked, says the Dhammapada, grows like a wild creeper, wrapping the mind until vision is lost. In Buddhist teaching, craving, tang, is not just for pleasure, it's for validation, control, revenge. We reach outside to fill the hollowness inside, not realizing that the cup we drink from is cracked. Jason's compliments couldn't fix the silence at home. His touch couldn't heal years of neglect. Emily was not falling in love, she was falling into attachment, mistaking attention for connection. And still, she continued. The reckoning came sooner than expected. At the quarterly strategy summit, David presented a sweeping reorganization plan. Calm, composed, and utterly surgical, he proposed realigning leadership structures to maximize efficiency. The room applauded the vision. Emily, sitting 2 rows away, felt a chill run through her. Within days, she was informed that her oversight would be narrowed to allow more creative focus. Jason, meanwhile, was reassigned to another division across the city. No explanation, no goodbye. It was clear David wasn't confronting her directly. He was dismantling her power. Emily tried to protest, but HR was polite and evasive. The board was committed to transparency and unified in support of the new direction. She saw it for what it was, exile dressed in corporate jargon. That night, she confronted David at home. He didn't deny anything. "You chose," he said simply, eyes cold and distant. "You made your move. I'm making mine." It wasn't just revenge. It was domination. He wasn't trying to win her back, he was ensuring she couldn't win anything. And Jason? Gone as swiftly as he'd arrived. Emily called, texted, emailed. Nothing. Days later, a mutual colleague let it slip Jason had already been seen having drinks with a senior executive in another company. A woman, married, older, powerful. Emily laughed bitterly. She wasn't the exception. She was the pattern. In the world of ego and ambition, people don't love people. They love the feeling of being needed, wanted, obeyed. As the Buddha taught, he who seeks to rule others has not ruled himself. At a networking gala weeks later, Emily showed up out of duty. Lily, her closest friend and confidant, greeted her with forced cheer. By the second glass of wine, gossip flowed as freely as the Chardonnay. And in a sudden hush at the table, Emily heard her name. "She's the one who had the thing with her assistant, right?" "Poor David." The words hit like a slap. Emily turned to Lily, eyes narrowed. Lily looked away. It hadn't been Jason who told. It was her. The betrayal cut deeper than Jason's silence or David's coldness. This was friendship turned poison, trust turned theater. And in that moment, surrounded by laughter that suddenly sounded cruel and far away, Emily realized she was alone, not just in the office, but in the world she had built for herself. Buddhist reflection. The ego does not seek peace. It seeks position, validation, advantage. But as the Diamond Sutra reminds us, all conditioned things are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, or shadows, like dew and lightning. Thus should they be regarded. In the quiet that followed her retreat, Emily no longer sought redemption through apologies or explanations. She didn't call David. She didn't chase Jason. And she didn't confront Lily. Instead, she turned inward with the calm certainty of someone who had finally stopped running. She began waking before sunrise, sitting in stillness for 15 minutes each morning. She no longer reached for her phone as soon as she opened her eyes. She learned to watch her thoughts rise and fall like tides, wanting, judging, regretting, and she did not follow them. What replaced the chaos wasn't a dramatic transformation or spiritual epiphany. It was something far more subtle: space. The space between stimulus and reaction, between desire and decision. She returned to the city weeks later, not to reclaim her job or rewrite her story, but to begin a new one, grounded not in performance but presence. 6 techniques to untangle sex, power, and ego at work. A gentle path rooted in Buddhist wisdom. 1. Pause before pleasure. When desire arises, whether for attention, intimacy, or control, take a single conscious breath. Ask, what am I truly seeking right now? 2. See the pattern. We often repeat emotional patterns not because they work, but because they're familiar. Recognize when you're reliving old scripts, being the savior, the seducer, the one who needs to be needed. 3. Drop the narrative. Let go of the inner monologue. He betrayed me. I deserve better. They don't respect me. None of these thoughts are the truth. They're just passing clouds. 4. Speak the truth. Not in anger, not in strategy, just simple honesty. This hurts me. I feel unseen. I'm afraid. Vulnerability disarms ego. 5. Sangha support. Surround yourself with people who value awareness over ambition, stillness over status. Not to isolate, but to anchor. 6. Return to stillness. Even 5 minutes a day. No music. No movement. Just breath. Let the world spin while you remain unmoved, like the center of a wheel. Final reflection. The workplace is not a battlefield. It is a mirror. It reflects our cravings, our wounds, our need to prove and to possess. But in every difficult relationship, every power play, every betrayal, there is a seed of awakening. The path to peace is not through victory. It is through letting go. And in that letting go, we remember who we were before we tried to become someone. If this story touched something within you, share it with someone who may need it too. Subscribe for more narratives where ancient wisdom meets the struggles of modern life. And remember, sometimes the greatest clarity comes after we lose everything we thought mattered.